Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be on this beautiful DIY all the time cardstock flowers, so you're able to create your own beautiful floral backdrop. Let's begin. So here is the very simple template I went ahead and created. You will need 4 different sizes of your petals, 5 in each size of course, in small, medium, large, and extra large. Here I have already pre-cut 2 sizes, so I just need 5 petals of the extra large size and 5 petals of the small size, and of course that little hexagon on the bottom left. So here again I went ahead and already traced all of my petals just to kind of speed up the process a little bit, and I'm just going to start cutting each of my petals. And just for the sake of the tutorial, I did number each petal just so that you can kind of follow along and see that I am using each petal of each size, but you don't have to add the sizes of each petal to yours when you're creating your flowers, because you don't want to see the numbers on your actual creation. And to create these beautiful cardstock flowers, you are going to need 8 sheets of 8x11 cardstock paper that can be found at any craft store. So now each of my sized petals have been cut. Here you see 5 of the small ones, then here are 5 of the extra large, 5 of the large, and 5 of the medium, and the hexagon to glue them onto. So the next step is adding some dimension to your petals, just because you don't want them to lay flat or else your flower won't really look too realistic. It'll just look kind of 2D-like, I guess. So to do so, what I like to do is grab my glue stick from my glue gun obviously, and just roll the petals backwards, just kind of following the shape of the glue stick. So I focus more on the right and left side of the petal opposed to the center of it, just so that I can get like a nice lifelike flower petal shape. So again, you just want to grab your flower petal and a glue stick, and then I start on the left side and just roll the petal following the glue stick shape, and I do the same exact thing for the right. And you're going to do this to every single flower petal that you did cut. So the next step is adding a little bit more dimension to your petals, and to do so you just want to cut a 1 to 2 inch slit down the middle of your petal. This will add a little more dimension when you add a little dab of glue and glue it together. And again, just make sure you're doing this to all of your petals for all different sizes. Once you've created the slit to each petal, you're just going to add a dab of glue onto one side of the slit basically, and just glue these sides together. And again, make sure you do this to each and every single petal. So this is basically what you should have completed thus far, which is all 4 sizes already cut and glued and folded and rolled and all that good stuff. So the next part is bringing your flower together. To begin your flower, you first want to glue the first petal to the long side of your hexagon, just making it a little easier to continue the process. And this is what it looks like when you have your first petal glued down. Now for the second petal, the way I like to go about it is kind of following the right slit of your first petal. So you see here, I like to follow the hexagon as much as I can, but I also like to follow the right side of where I've made that first cut on petal number 1. So I just add a strip of glue and paste my second petal, trying to keep it as close as I can to the right slit of the first petal. Hope that makes sense. But as I continue, I'm sure you'll kind of see the pattern I continue to do with each layer and each petal. So here I'm going to show you what I basically mean. So the slit is where I cut the petal in half and glued it together, and I'm focusing on the right side of the petal when it comes to gluing the corresponding petal. So I hope that makes a little more sense. And don't be afraid to go back and add a little more dimension to your flowers. I go back and just kind of roll the edges of the petals backwards just to make each petal look a lot more realistic and not too 2D and more 3D like. And continuing with the gluing, so again I am just focusing on gluing the next corresponding petal to the right side of the previous petal that I had glued down. So number 3, you see I kind of made it a little bit aligned to that right slit. I'm going to do the same exact thing for the 4th and 5th petal, and the same thing for the next layers as well. Now this is what the bottom of your flower looks like with the first layer of petals glued, and this is what the top layer looks like with your first layer glued onto that hexagon. Now we are ready to continue on to the next layer, which is the large size petals. Now to begin gluing down the large size petals, I like to glue the first petal between 2 of the extra large size petals, and then I follow the same rule as I did before, just gluing down the petals to the right side of the slit for each of the following 5 petals as you see here. Here I'm just going to show you how I basically layer them and glue them down, just because I don't want to bore you with all the gluing and everything between it. So here is the large size petals already glued down, air quotes, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the medium size petals, where I'm going to glue the first one between 2 large size petals. Then I'm going to layer the corresponding petals to the right side of the slit, just following the same pattern I did before. So this is basically what your flower is going to look like as I glue them down, or as you glue them down I should say. And here I'm just going to fast forward it so you see the process, but I just wanted you to see how I would basically go about gluing each of them down. And as I go gluing down each petal, if I think it's kind of lost some of its dimension, I go back with the glue stick and kind of re-roll it just to make sure that they all stay nice and perky and they don't start to lay flat. And before I glue down each petal, I like to place it in the flower and move it and adjust it as I think fitting before I actually glue it down permanently. And this is what your flower should resemble once you have glued down each of your 4 layers. And the next step is creating the center of your flower. Now to create the center of the flower, you are going to need 1 sheet of cardstock paper. I like to go with a different color, but you can definitely use the same one. Then you just want to fold that paper in half longwise and cut it right down the middle. Then you want to fold each of those pieces in half. Then you're just going to cut a lot of slits. Try to make them as close as you can in size and in length on the closed end of that sheet or that strip of paper. So here you should have 2 strips of the paper with a bunch of slits on each one, kind of resembling about halfway of each point. Then you want to kind of pre-roll one of the strips, so to just make it easier when you have to actually roll it and glue it together. So you do want to glue one strip completely flat, so to do so you just want to run the glue along one edge and just glue them together, and that's all you need to do to the first strip. And now the second strip is going to be a little bit different. Now for the second strip, we do want to glue it a little bit different to add a little more dimension, and to do so, instead of gluing it flat, we're going to glue it about 1/4 of the way up the strip, just along my finger where I was showing you there. And to make the process a little easier, you just want to kind of fold and bend the top half of your strip. Then once you have kind of pre-rolled it or bent it a little bit, then you're just going to run a little bit of glue, kind of doing it in sections, along 1/4 of the way up the strip. Then you're going to glue down the part that you did fold in half. Then you're going to do a second section and then a third as well, kind of creating that little shape that I just showed you there. So once you have glued that second strip together, you kind of just created this shape here, just adding a little extra dimension to the center of your flower. The following step is rolling and gluing the flat strip together. So to do so is I bend the first slit in half just to make it a little easier to begin to roll the entire strip. So once you have kind of bent it together, you're just going to roll the strip a few times. Then you're going to add some glue, and then you're going to continue to roll it and then add another dab of glue. It's just easier than actually gluing the entire thing down, and this way it's just a little bit faster. So once you have glued down the first strip, you're going to grab the second one and just kind of pre-roll it along the first one, just so that it'll make it easier when gluing down the second strip. So now that it's taken on that shape, it's just a little easier to roll. So again, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to roll it a few times and add a dab of glue, and then roll it a few times and add more glue. And here you have your center piece. It's pretty much that easy. It's just a little bit better when you have that dimension on the second layer, opposed to it just kind of falling flat. And then you just want to insert it in your flower as you see here. But to add a little extra dimension, of course, I love dimension on these flowers, I kind of roll my fingers and my palm along the actual center of the flower just to add a little bit more, you guessed it, dimension. Just kind of open it up a bit and make sure it takes the entire center of the flower, because I don't want it to kind of just lay there and just be, I don't know, a little flat. Then once you have it to your liking, you're going to add glue to the rim of that center piece and just glue it onto your flower. And here you have your beautiful cardstock flower. And what I love about these steps that I do here is that you can do the same thing with all different types and shapes of petals. All you have to do is just find some other styles of templates and just follow these same steps. Okay, thanks for watching everybody, and please subscribe.